Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, people. It is Evening Brews. It is a premiere. It's not 6 p.m. UK time right now as of time recording, but it is in the UK. So here we go with a pre-recorded Evening Brews. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm back for Evening Brews. Just to let you know why this is a pre-recorded one. People will know I have surgery in 12 days, and right here, as you're watching this, I'm actually at the hospital seeing the anaesthetist, having all my pre-surgery stuff sorted. So I am joined with my partner in crime, Mr. Brian Ireland. How are you, sir?
I'm well, mate. Just getting through the week of everybody freaking out. And, of course, we've got 2 weeks of it now since we've got the international break. So joy and pain at the same time. But, yeah, looking forward to this. Always love chatting with you, brother.
Exactly. So we've got a few things to talk about. And thankfully, these aren't really time sensitive, apart from the last bit, which is nostalgia, which I should have picked up on yesterday, but I've only picked up on now, and there was no way I was letting it go without being mentioned on this
really,
show.
Brian, when we get into
I know, it's bad form, Brian. It's bad form. But we're going to start with a big talking point right now. And obviously, after the defeat against Newcastle, our form is not the best over the calendar year or whatever you want to talk about it, but we're going to focus on the away form because there's a lot of talk about the away form. And I'm going to bring up an image right now, which obviously shows since Boxing Day, I believe it's 12 games, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 games. We've won 2. Obviously, Villa 4-0, which was a great performance that we thought we were going to build up from. And then the Sheffield United win on the final day of the season. And we started with 1 point from a possible 6. I'm going to leave this up here for a moment, Ireland, whilst we just talk about it. I've said it's the away day blues. It's not good reading. We have to remember as well, and I'm not alluding to this with Ange sack because I do not want it, but the away form for the final part of Pochettino's was horrific, and it gets the Champions League final, obviously papered over the cracks. But that's really not good reading for away form, is it?
Yeah, it doesn't look good, and it's hard to argue that there's a problem there. I would push back a little bit on this season. Yes, we've lost one and we've drawn one away. I do think the comparison between how we played in those games and how we played in many of these games is quite different. We dominated the ball. We had much better possession. We created a ton of chances, didn't have a striker in the last game and the first game of the season. We're arguably a bit naive about it. But not to take anything away from this, I think it is a little bit. It does make me nervous, and then that's the case. But we are capable of playing really well on the road. We haven't done it in this year, so yeah, I don't know what to say, man. Like I want to. We spoke about Evening Brews yesterday's episode of it with Johnny, and we sort of talked about the differences between what we've seen this season and what we saw last season, and that we're playing better football generally. So this doesn't look good. The away form so far this season hasn't been great either. Do they correlate necessarily? I don't know that we'll know that until we're 10 15 games in, and then there's a run of those games in this season to really say that there's a problem there. But I agree that no, it doesn't look good. Like, and I'm not deluded in thinking that there's nothing completely wrong with it, but I am going to give, like I've said at the beginning of the season, like I've said on every show, I want to see this season. I want to see 15 games in, 10 15 games in. Where are we? And if this is still the problem, then yeah, there's massive issues.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at it, and I will go through this list very, very quickly. You and I watched Brighton, the Scotland Yard together, and that was a complete capitulation. Manchester United, we don't have the best of records there, but they were.
It's arguably a good draw. They weren't in a good place, but
they were at their weakest, and obviously everything surrounding them weren't good. Everton, we seem to either do very well there or just fall apart. There's no kind of middle ground. Villa was a resounding 4-0 win, especially with Van der Ven going off injured in the second half.
Strange one, wasn't it?
Fulham was just like night and day. West Ham is just the bogey team, whatever. Newcastle won't let's not say anymore. We know what happens at Newcastle. Chelsea, it comes to the point you might as well just give them the 3 points and say, listen, we'll take -3. Liverpool, again, is another one where we have that. Sheffield United, we should have won, and we did convincingly. Leicester and Newcastle, obviously, this season, and Newcastle, but there's something I've got to mention about. Like you said, Ida, we're going to have a quick chat about it because there's something I cannot get out of my head, and I mentioned it earlier on Morning Brews. Right. There's a famous or semi-well-known Spurs fan / radio personality called Dan Kelly, who does a lot of stuff. Has been on The Last Word on Spurs before, been on many things, but goes on TalkSport.
Right.
Did something that I just can't shake. And I allude to it with what you were saying about Leicester and Newcastle, about playing really well in parts, where Dan Kelly said, if it's a good sign when you win games when you're not playing well, on a flip side, it can't be a good sign when you play well and lose. And I cannot shake that because he's right. I think, listen, you can say, listen, good teams have gone to win things. You didn't deserve it and you won. You got away with one, or you just weren't on song, you take the 3 points. But yes, you can say we played well. You can say in patches we played well, but you can't hold it as do you know what? It's really good. We played really well.
No, I'm not. I wouldn't hold it like that. I think the only thing I'm getting to, Bryce, there on that is I think both of those statements are pretty kind of without context. And they're both pretty like simple statements that for me I wouldn't put weight into either of them. That's just my position on it. I get it. Like it sounds cool to say that this is the situation. I wouldn't put a ton of weight into it. I think I think there's more in it than that type of simple statement. But I get the point. I get it that if you're going to say one is true, then the other one likely should be true as well, or the opposite shouldn't be the case. So I understand it. I think both of them are lazy.
Yeah, because like I said, you can say it. There's been games with Tottenham where it's like, oh my God, I don't know how we got away with that. I don't know how we got away with it. But that side of a team that are pulling in, like the Champions League elect, the Man Cities and the filth, when they're going for it, there are games where they're not on form. They just manage to get it over the line. And I think you can also look at it with Leicester, also with Newcastle. There was no Dominic Solanke. Like there wasn't for Everton. There was no Mickey. We
didn't have a somebody to hit. Like the amount of balls in the box, the amount of chances that we had, if 9 was in there, proper 9, we would have been 3-0 up in 30 minutes. It's a different. I'm taking this season's in a different context than last. I understand bringing this up and kind of comparing it to where form was. I just think form is different in a new season with new players, and we have to be reasonable about that. But I get it at the same time.
Well, you say that now, and this is where we're going to allude to. So this is where we've done now, and I'd like to know what people, when you're in the chat or in the comments afterwards, what you think, not only about this run of form, but what I said or what Dan Kelly said. I'm going to repeat it just again, which was, if it's a good sign when you win games when not playing well, on the flip side, it can't be a good sign when you play well and lose. I totally agree with that. Ireland is kind of.
I just think it's a little bit lacking in context in both cases. Like I wouldn't use either of them to define a point whether a road form is good or not good. This is a different season we're looking at with different. I just don't think it's an appropriate way to look at it. But I get the sentiment, and I understand why people would appreciate it.
Well, there we go. So that's not what you think. But the reason I wanted to say that, especially with that sentence at the end, is based on this. Now we're going to look. One of my friends, Matt, have put this on top of it. This doesn't exactly bode well when your next 4 games away are Manchester United, so Old Trafford, Brighton, who are playing brilliantly, Crystal Palace, which is a tough place to go to, regardless. If their fans are on it, it is a very hard place to go to. And then our trip to the Etihad, where we normally can do okay. I mean, looking at those 4 games, Ireland, what do you reckon? If you'd say right now, Crystal, well, let's just say Van der Ven is back. Let's say Solanke is back. Out of those 4, how many points are you thinking?
I think we can go to United and get a point. I think that's always a difficult place for us to go. United aren't they're kind of the same team as they were last year, arguably. So if we're comparing sort of season over season, they seem like the same thing that we experienced last season. It's a difficult place to go. Brighton are looking very good, despite, not necessarily getting results, but they're playing good football. So I'd say United 1 point. I think we can beat Brighton away, but it's tight. It's a tough one.
So Brighton have got 2 wins and a draw so far.
Yeah, and I think we beat Palace, and I think we probably lose to City. So I think there's probably 5 points out of those 4 games potentially. If I'm being realistic, I'm not going to, I think we could beat United. I think we could beat Brighton. I think with those 3 first games, all 3 of them we could get wins. It depends what's happened before. It depends who's fit. It depends what our form is. Again, I'm going by this season. I know we're trying to look at this as a holistic time since Ange has been here, and I understand that, and that is a thing to look at. We shouldn't ignore it, but. Like I said, I think taking this season separate from last season, the football's different, the squad's different, and I think we'll go into these games with more confidence and a better chance of getting a result. But away games are tough in the Premier League, man. It's hard to predict what's going to happen, and we do need to get better at winning on the road if we're gonna put ourselves in a position to win anything.
Yeah, because the way I look at this, obviously United, I mean, if you look at the state of them versus Liverpool, but Liverpool were tremendous. Were tremendous, and their midfield looked like they'd given up and were giving ball possession away too much, which could play to our strengths.
Yep.
But then it's what we do when we get to the final third, which seems to be our problem.
That's a fitness thing. We'd have to agree. Like if Solanke and Richarlison and Lancashire are all 3 fit, I'm not saying Lancashire will play or be on the bench at all, but if we've got 3 fit center forwards in our squad, we should be able to go to these places and finish some of these opportunities. They should be scoring goals with the amount we're creating. If they aren't scoring goals with the amount we're creating, that's another conversation, a different problem.
Yeah. Well, where I was going actually with that was literally – no, it's right. It's like literally I'm getting annoyed that we're this passy, one too many passes. There's too many times where we pass where we should shoot and shoot when we should pass. Hopefully, like you said, with Solanke there, it's different. Brighton, I'm not even going to say, because whenever I think about Brighton away, I think about that game we just saw and then the Hugo Lloris injury horror show.
Oh, God, that was awful, wasn't it?
So it is a tricky place to go to. Yep. Palace, I would hope we could win. Let's just hope Eze doesn't go nuts on us, because that will start another Twitter sphere absolute mauling. Man City, you never know what we're going to do.
I think just to quickly add to this conversation, Brad, I think that one thing I would note that we could hopefully be excited about is that 3 out of these 4 teams aren't going to park the bus and put a low block against us. They're going to play football. That benefits us. So United, Brighton, City, maybe even Palace to an extent, they've been playing a bit more open and not sitting as deep, although they may counter on us because they know that that's what works. United might do the same potentially. So I would think that we need to consider that as well, because I was talking about that with Johnny earlier, or the last evening brews, about sort of that situation. So I think there's some considerations of how we're playing our football, how much space we're going to be given, the ticky-tacky stuff that you're seeing, the annoying overly passing. I do agree that does get a little bit frustrating, but that's kind of what you have to do to break down a low block. You can't run at them because they're sitting so deep. So how do you build it? You got to go build around, drag them out, try to make spaces between the lines so that you can get the ball there, and somebody's got to attack it. And though that's the thing we've been missing, is somebody not attacking it. We've had Sonny stop at the 6-yard box and balls go across. That happened like 3 times in the last game against Newcastle. And on the other side, same thing. The cross is coming in. Nobody's on the end of them. So, when there's space in behind by other teams, we can counter on them, and I think we'll see that from a few of those games. And I think that will score goals from those opportunities with good strikers in good positions.
Yeah, I mean, I'll add to this as well. Where I'll get as well is I've seen compilation over the last 48 hours of James Maddison and free kicks and James Maddison's long-range shooting for Leicester and other teams that he obviously played for, Coventry, Norwich. And it was a key part of his game, and it's something he is exceptionally good at. And it just seems that when he gets into these positions where he would pull the trigger for someone, he just doesn't seem to be pulling the trigger or having the curse of the Spurs dead ball. I want to see people. We've got people that can take or have.
I'd like to see Poro took one, and it wasn't far away. Well, against Newcastle, and I think he has arguably as good of a free kick in those positions. I mean, we've seen him do it in when we're live play, when we're playing. Some of the goals he scores from those places outside the 18-yard box. So he's got the skill there. I think Maddison definitely has to step up in that scenario and start to put some of those goals shots in. He did hit he did get the keeper made a save against Newcastle, a good save. I think a couple of them. That's another thing to take into account. The chances we've created, the shots on goal from outside the box has improved considerably. We've gotten a goal from Basuma. Sarr looked really good outside the box. A couple good saves from him, taking shots from there as well. So, but I'd like to see those free kicks from Matters really like starting to, Ward-Prowse level stuff was what we need to see from him, because those opportunities are massive, and we get a lot of them, especially in those games where we're playing a lot of it across the top of that 18-yard box, because we're trying to get the ball between the lines, and the fouls happen right there. So somebody needs to take advantage of that, because that is happening a lot.
So there you go. So people, let us know what you think and how many points we're going to get from those next 4 games. I have a feeling if we're not able to get a couple of 3 points, this away form is going to be magnified a lot more into how big a point, just like Poch's was. But like I said, that's not talking about Angie and Ange out. We're not doing that right.
No, it's not about that. But I agree that it's a statistic to look at. We should look at it. But I do think it's important to
it's what was
this season. It's a different season. So
yeah, but obviously it was also spoken in the final year of Poch over a calendar year that we didn't win away. So we're coming up to the calendar year. Obviously, it has all been Ange. So we'll see. But now we're gonna have some. Talk about a certain signing. Alistair Gold has released a article based on our new Swede, Lucas Bergvall. I'm just going to remove the Evening Brews bit, because the bits I'm going to bring up. The first thing we're going to talk about, he spoke about the choking incident, where he said, this is from Alistair Gold. He goes, first my boot broke. It just completely opened up. I took a caffeine chewing gum to get started a bit after that. I forgot to take out the gum, and it went into my throat. It was hard to breathe, he said in an interview with Swedish media outlet. I'm not going to try to say that.
Sorry for laughing. I had no idea about this. This is great.
It never felt like there was anything dangerous. It was more a little uncomfortable. I tried to bring it up, but I was calm. It looked a little worse than it was and felt. It was a little uncomfortable. It was a little hard to breathe. That was probably what caused slight panic. I took the gum to settle, to get a little bit of an extra boost. It's probably a bit of a placebo effect too. I use it now and then if I might feel a little more tired some days. If you want a little extra energy, but it's not something I want to get used to. As I said, it probably mostly a placebo thing. Now, where I am with this is obviously you see Alex Ferguson and players or managers chewing gum. Obviously you see people swallowing their tongues and other things. It's obviously not happened before like this, but I'd never even heard of caffeine gum. What do you make of what? I mean, that's crazy, because it never had been explained until now, so that's nice to at least get that information, because I wasn't sure what had happened. It's a weird one. Like, I get it. It gives you a little kick, right? So you're just, it's like having a Coca-Cola or a coffee or something. And I used to do that before football matches all the time when I was playing. I would, finish the day of work, and then I'm like, it's like, I got to go get dressed at 7:00 and go play an evening game, and I'm exhausted from working all day, and I'm like, I need a kick. All right, chug a Coca-Cola, have a coffee, something to put caffeine in my system, wakes me up a little bit and gets me going again. So it does work, and it's a functional thing to do. So makes sense. But I wouldn't be chewing gum on the pitch. I feel like that's a weird one, because that I could imagine that would be an easy thing that would happen to me. I would never understand why somebody would chew gum on the pitch, but maybe because he was just trying to get as much caffeine out of it as he could to wake him up. I'm not sure. It's a weird one. You look at it, they have all the deals with Lucozade and the sports drinks, so they have all the glucose and everything. There's other ways. Obviously, it was the way he's making it sound, it looks like it was being blown up out of all proportions. But I mean, it did look very worrying.
It looked scary on the day. I was like worried for him. I'm like, what is happening? When he's choking on something, he's not, But that makes complete sense, because if you've ever had like just anything lodged in your throat that's really small and it doesn't go down and it just sits there and you're trying to like heave it up, it's really frustrating. So it makes sense, and it does look a lot worse than it actually is, because you're so like, I just got to get rid of this, and intense, but crazy that that's what actually happened. What are your thoughts on the caffeine side of it, like, or gum? Like, what Crazy.
I think it's more the gun thing is for caffeine. You can
Caffeine makes sense.
Before the game. I mean, obviously, it's a bit different. If you're on the starting 11, you know when you're coming on. So you know, right, I need to be alert. I'm coming on right now. I'm starting the game. It's go time at 3 o'clock or 7:45 or whatever game time you're kicking off. When you're on the subs bench, you're just sitting there, aren't you? Apart from when it gets you to warm up and start stretching up and getting the muscles going and the adrenaline. Caffeine gum is something I never even heard of.
I didn't know about it either, but if I was still playing, I'd be like, give me some of that. If you're on the bench and then you get called on, you don't realize you're going to go on. You go, oh crap, and then you just chuck it in your mouth real quick and chew it. That's probably what happened to him. He's like trying to get the energy, so he's chewing the gum real quick. And he's like, I'll just chew it for a little bit while I'm on the pitch, and then I'll spit it out at some point, and then of course he chokes on it.
Well, the only other thing I think of is obviously when you look at tennis and they take banana for potassium.
Yeah,
that might have been obviously the more natural thing to have been able to. But that's it's what he does. So we're going to bring up the next thing that he discussed, which was basically it's him and Alistair. He said Postecoglou, basically this is Alistair Gold just saying the Postecoglou had high hopes for Bergvall and admitted after being unsure just how quickly the midfielder would adapt, the teenager, who was soon called up to the Swedish senior squad this month, has quickly shown that he's ready to contribute now. The youngster is just taking it all in his stride and went on to say, Lucas went on to say, I don't know what my expectations were before, to be honest. I came into a tough but fun pre-season. It was very new. I just wanted to start playing football again after a holiday break. The only thing I knew was it was going to be tough, said Bergvall. It was motivation when I came to the new league with new people, new teammates, new coaches, new facilities, diet, training, physical activity, everything. It feels like I have taken very big steps in these 2 months. That I get into it more and more, and I've been able to adapt more to the game that has been played in the Premier League. The quality of the players and the teams you face, it's incredible quality everywhere. It's not possible to make many mistakes or any mistakes at all. You must always be ready. This is the case regardless of where you play, but now it can be punished a little easier. Your thoughts, Ireland?
Really great insight from for me, what I think is going to be a very, very special player. And I think he is already a special player. I do think that it's going to take a season for him to really start to show what he's good at, because he's adjusting to all the things he just mentioned there. The level is just, it's another level up, but I do think he's ready for it. I think he has the skill set in him, and in a little bit stronger and a little bit of growth and good coaching means that, we've got a special player on our hands. And just interesting insight into what it would be like for a very young player from another country to come into what is, a really well-structured, whether you want to say nice things about the club or not, we have got a really, really great structure in our club for a youngster to come into, with really great coaching and really good facilities. And of course, the level of the Premier League is very high. So really great stuff from him. It's really, really cool and insightful to hear him say that. And I can't wait till he inevitably takes somebody's in our midfield's position, because he knows he's better and he shows it in training, because I do think he will be our go-to 10/creator in that midfield and probably this arguably at some point this season. And Madison will go out injured, Bergvall will take it, and he won't let it go.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at it with him when he came in. Obviously, it's wonderful for him to talk about the new facilities, the new training, the new diet, the new people. He's come in and he's really set a marker down. I think he did very well in pre-season. Obviously, there's a lot of people saying, it was pre-season, it was smaller teams, and they're right to they are right to a certain extent. But what I like seeing is he always wanted to smooth the ball forward. He always he weren't shying away from the tackle. Actually, showed a bit of bite in him.
Doesn't look afraid of it at all.
Exactly, and he's coming. In fact, it comes to the point with him where I'd rather he'd come on sooner against Newcastle. It gets to the point where I think he can have more of an impact and needs to come on earlier to get his footing into the game. But obviously, when he comes in, he's coming to it. I can't speak highly enough of how important it is to come in and obviously speaking English already fluently makes a massive difference.
100%.
Obviously, you've got Kulusevski there, is now captain for the national team to help him settle in. But obviously, coming in, that makes the settling in period a hell of a lot easier. And it is a huge step up. He's seeing things. I mean, the training ground alone. I mean, professionals at the peak of their powers come to this training ground and think, "My God, look at this!
Yeah,
Look at this
incredible facility for sure.
Yeah, that we have, and for him to see and have the best of the best, and yeah, it's good to see him coming in. It looks like he's settled in straight away, and he's been embraced within the squad, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And like you said, I think we'll see. I do like to see him come on a little earlier, to change the game, especially if we are struggling to create something when a team's in a low block and we've got a ton of the ball. It's another one of those players that I think you look at the bench and you go, we've got somebody who can come on and do something with given that situation. You get one more creative player and take off one more defensive player, and all of a sudden you can cut him open a little easier because you got quality there. And I think we'll start to see that from him, and I think he'll take it. He seems to me like the kind of kid who's just going to thrive really, really well in a more difficult situation.
Exactly. Couldn't agree more. So the final thing we're going to talk about with him is his moment with Vicario, which was obviously heavily spoken about, whether it was right or wrong for Vicario. You and me can speak about that in a minute, Ireland. But he said, sometimes you do slightly worse things, sometimes you do slightly better things. We were 1-0 up with a fairly comfortable lead. We just conceded 1-1, and then that happened when he lost the ball. He said, all is calm now. We have talked about it. Vicario said that there are hot feelings and things like this can happen. It's been dusted under the carpet. He's accepted it. Where were you when it happened, and what are you making of what he's just said?
Yeah, I mean, there's a small part of me that doesn't like to see a young player like that who's come into the squad get yelled at that way. But then the footballing side of me, when I've been on the pitch, when it's happened to me, or when I've done it to other people, yelling at somebody, but it's because you care and because you want the level to be at the level it's supposed to be at, and you shouldn't be in our own end, in our own 18-yard box, dicking around with the ball in a scenario when we need to go and get a win. Like it's like that's you needed to be told. Now sometimes it's embarrassing a little bit when you're told in public like that, but I think it was absolutely appropriate. I want to see more of that. I want to see more of our midfielders doing that to some of the other players. I want to see our captains doing it. I want the intensity level and expectation level from all the players on the pitch to be like Vicario is in that situation, even if people feel like they're going to get hurt. Anything on the pitch that you say never stays there, or always stays on the pitch. You get to the dressing room, you have the conversation, and you move on, and you go, okay, thank you. I'm glad you told me. It won't happen again. Like that's how you get better. That's how you improve in your head, how you become a better player, and how you understand what is expected of you from your teammates. So I have no problem with it at all. I think it was the right thing to do, and I think he'll learn from it. I think he's the type of player who will take it in, and it won't happen again.
Exactly. I mean, I look at it the way that you're in the Premier League now. This isn't Sunday League. Yeah. If you're big enough to be on that pitch, be prepared if things happen. Look at great goalkeepers like Peter Schmeichel.
Yeah,
you can go through it. David Seaman. You can go
all the best.
Penacek. All of these big goalkeepers, they are very, very animated because you've got to remember they're the last line of defence. If you put them under pressure, and like Lucas said in the previous message, you make a mistake, you get punished in this league more often than not. So I think the big thing with it at the time was that he didn't go nuts at Romero when we conceded the goal, which I agreed with. If you're going to do it for one, you do it for everyone.
Yeah, and I think that's arguably, and we don't know this, we're speculating, but I think that's a good shout. I think arguably in that scenario, he would be a little bit afraid of doing it to Romero because Romero is a captain, and that's not right either. Like he should be able to say to Romero, and Romero should understand that he's not, just because of his position in the squad and his experience, that he doesn't deserve to be get a rollicking because he's made a massive error. Like he made a massive error here. You should get told by everybody.
Exactly. I mean, if someone did that to Romero and put Romero under pressure, you bet your ass he's going and going to go.
100%. He's going to go after them and tell them.
I think it's part of it's not even part of the modern game. It's been part of the Premier League and football. If the goalkeeper who is there, and let's face it, if you muck up and leave it 1-on-1 or whatever it may be, it is down to him. And obviously, it's great to see that. Obviously, sorting it out off the pitch. We know Vicario is an emotional, and he's going to be a vocal member of the team. One of the things that he's brilliant at is how vocal he actually is. So it's not always going to be well done, great pass or great tackle, well done.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to be all hunky dory all the time. When we're under pressure, we're in a scenario we're trying to get a goal and we're going to go try to win a game. Giving the ball away in our own end in that situation is not something you can do. You just can't do it again, and that's why he told him the way he told him, and it was appropriate.
Exactly. So before we get to the final subject, which is going to be a nice little conversation, especially for me, just a couple of things. It's going to be a short evening, Bruce. Just to let you know, guys, this is the time where I say the halftime team talk, where it's slightly later than a halftime team talk. The channel is flying, and it's all down to you great people that are watching it, supporting it, becoming members, super chats. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts, and
Really
we've got lots more. We've got lots more in store for you. So if you haven't already and you do have the opportunity to like the video, please do so. And then, of course, if you are enjoying the content and you haven't already subscribed, please do. Your help, your views, your likes really helps push us out and gets us a wider audience, which we really appreciate. And also to let people know, people have been asking me already, people who would have seen me on Chris Cowling's show a month ago, talking all things Tottenham and build up to the transfer, and Daniel Levy and our views on him. Chris Cowling invited me back onto the show when the window shut, and I've had a lot of people saying, Brian, has that been sorted? Cowling was going to have you back on. Is it arranged? It's arranged. It will be Thursday, 8 p.m. UK time. Myself and Chris Cowling summarising the summer window, talking all things Spurs, including the board. So please feel free to stay. A lot of you guys have watched me and supported me on Chris's show. And if people actually listen to what Chris is saying a lot of the time, or not a lot of the time, but he will mention his frustrations and his anger at the board. He obviously comes there from a different approach to maybe what I used to, and even the new me. But please stay tuned and watch it. It'll be a great, great show. And I thank Chris for having me on. So, last thing. We should have done it yesterday, but completely forgot about it. And me, of all people, to forget about it. It is September the 4th when we're watching this, but September the 3rd is a very special day in Tottenham history. A very, very special day for me in my history of supporting the club. And I completely forgot to spoke about it. People will remember in 1988, we signed a little fella by the name of Paul Gazza Gascoigne, my idol, my footballing hero. For me, until the day I die, the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be in a Spurs shirt. 112 games, 33 goals, an FA Cup. The last team to win it. Obviously, we know what happened to him in that game. But if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have got to that game. Tottenham Hotspur Player of the Year, PFA Team of the Year, and then it ends with what an unbelievable player Gazza was. Now, I can wax lyrical about this man, and I will do shortly. But Ireland, your thoughts and memories of a certain man by the name of Paul Gazza Gascoigne.
Unfortunately, mine are mostly through people like yourself, because I didn't really get to start watching Spurs in Canada until the early 2000s. So it was highlights, or it was every now and again Spurs would be featured if they played Man United or Liverpool on Soccer Saturday with Graham Leggett on TSN in Toronto. So that's when I was able to get to see highlights, but the highlight reels of him and the things he's done, and he's all the things that I miss about old football that I didn't really get to experience the way I would have liked to, that I just think is lost a little bit on the modern game. And that's just the fun that some of these players used to have, and the intensity that they played at, but with just the freedom too, and just how much fun it's a different watch. And he's the epitome of it. He's the Joker off the pitch, and on the pitch, one of the best players you've ever seen play the game. So again, I wish I got to see some of those games the way you did, and was able to experience them live, but I am living vicariously through you. I do recognize why, you have the love you do for him, and some of the games I've seen him play and some of the goals I've seen him score. Magical player, and a seemingly, flawed human being, but a wonderful human being at the same time with some of the stuff off the pitch, but wonderful guy and wonderful player.
Yeah, I mean, well, when it comes to this man, like I said, the first thing he'll do is send me straight back to my childhood. Send me straight back. And Spurs were not the biggest, the baddest, the toughest team, but I'm sure there's a lot of people in the comments right now that had the honour, the blessing, and the privilege to watch him, whether it be on TV, whether it be season ticket and following him everywhere. I keep saying on regular times, I can't think of a player. There's only very few since him where there was a player that got the football and the whole ground was like, oh my God, something's about to happen here. Oh my God.
Excitement.
Like that edge of it. Don't get me wrong, Harry Kane with his goal scoring, his passing range, but it was nothing like when Paul Gascoigne got his foot on the ball. Go back to Glenn Hoddle, a Ginola, a Bauer, a Van der Vaart. We don't have them. This guy single-handedly destroyed teams on pitches that these players probably couldn't handle on.
There were pitches that I played on, and
and just the types of goals. I keep saying, and I will keep saying it every single time. If I'm ever asked if you can have one player back in their prime to play in this current Tottenham team, every single time, it doesn't matter what era that we've gone on, Paul Gascoigne is always the answer. I mean, I've got to meet him personally on many, many occasions through my friend, his dad being his lawyer Melstein at the time. Someone I went to Jewish youth school with, Jewish youth school youth groups with, played football with. He came there many a time. I've seen him when I've been out and about. Just my love for this man is obviously the connection, obviously with our demons. It makes it strong. But people always go on about the Arsenal FA Cup goal, and obviously I was at Jewish Sunday school and I ran back. And as I ran into the living room, it was like I passed him the baton and he made that run and put that ball in the back of the line. Literally,
right there. Wow.
The timing. But I obviously didn't get to see that live. But I did get to see the Gazza versus Scotland Euro 96 live at Wembley.
Wow. Just
things this man could do on the football pitch. You ask anyone when they saw him play, even Wayne Rooney talks about how good he was, how this man, my God, some of us would have been blessed to have seen him. But what at 1988, you got to remember we broke a British transfer record then, 2.2 million.
Yeah, which now sounds hilarious, but yeah, at the time was a ton of money, wasn't it?
Well, it was ridiculous, and obviously there's the route that obviously the Manchester United story where he turned Alex Ferguson down, and Alex Ferguson was fuming. Alex Ferguson still says, of all the players he's had and could have had, his biggest regret in his whole footballing career was never signing Paul Gascoigne. I mean,
I love that though. I love that he's Spurs through and through. You know.
He loves it, and then you look at it. Whenever he comes to, I took my sister. My sister's not been to many Spurs games, or at the time, and I think it was 2000 or 2001, and he was playing for Everton. Right. And I took my sister to her first ever Spurs game, and obviously Gazza was playing for Everton, and the biggest cheers of the night was just singing "Your Spurs" and "You Know You Are." He got a corner at every corner of the ground, and the whole ground was. And my sister got to witness him in the other shirt. She's like, "My God, this guy must have been a great player." And I was like, "You got no idea."
It's hard to put it into words, you know.
It is. It's just a shame. I mean, if we hadn't had the debt that we'd been in, if he hadn't had the troubles and tribulations, who knows if we'd kept him for a long time, where we would have gone off. I think the biggest crime was he came in with Waddle. And then the next season we brought in Lineker, and Lineker came to play with Gazza and Waddle, and then we sold Waddle to Marseille. If we had had Gazza, Waddle, Lineker, we're talking. We may not have been talking this long for winning a league, because we came third, I believe, in that season or the season. We were just unstoppable. We were unstoppable. Could you imagine Gazza, Lineker? Well, there you go, guys. Listen, we haven't got time for questions. Guys, I want you to put in your comments. I will get around to answering them. We've spoken today about, obviously, our away day blues. We've spoken about Bergvall speaking to Alistair Gold, or Alistair Gold's done a piece on Bergvall. And, of course, on this day, a day late, about Paul Gascoigne. Ireland, thank you very much indeed for joining me, mate. It's always a blast spending time with you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, mate. Always a good chat. I've been able to get on a lot more lately, and I've been enjoying myself, so I'm looking forward to it. I'm in my new space. It's not fully set up yet, but soon I'll have my green screen behind me. I'll have my lights going. It's gonna be nice.
And there we go. So, guys, I will say, like I said, this will be premiered, been pre-recorded. Thursday, I will be back live. Friday will be the fan show. Whatever you do, please comment on everything we're doing. Have a wonderful evening, whatever you're doing. Like, comment, share, subscribe. And as always, Levy out.